Hey, Joe,
Yeah,
do you have to leave early after?
no, I'll be here.
Okay.
Well, it depends how late we go here.
How do you know how to deal with being deployed?
Yeah,
Go get the presidents today and
he's in the, reserve.
Yeah.
What's happening to him?
How much you guys being deployed overseas?
Really?
Yeah. So they've got people who are, they've got done something so they can still run in Canada. And Susie Light and Martin Becker are gonna step in and help, I guess. Oh, yeah, he's gonna be deployed overseas. Didn't say much for me to win, but.
Huh. He did send an email yesterday or something I didn't read.
Well, I'll get the presidents today, so I don't know.
Okay.
Does that mean that the dinner on the 27th is off?
Well, I didn't say when he was leaving, so I.
Oh. Do you know, Joe?
What's that?
Is the KEDCO dinner on the 27th, is it on or off still?
I don't know.
He didn't mention it at the commissioners meeting, so I'm guessing he'll stick me here for that.
Interesting. Being deployed.
Keeps putting all these apps on my iPad. Okay, looks like we're all here. And I will go ahead and call the October meeting of the Board of Aviation Commissioners for the City of Warsaw to order. You all should have received copies of all necessary documents, either hard copy or electronically. The first thing on the agenda being the minutes from the September meeting.
I move we accept the minutes as written.
I wasn't here.
I'll second that.
Okay. Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Next, claims. Nick, what do you have in particular to call to our attention this evening?
The two big ones that will jump out at you, Hall and Morosa, it was our annual insurance for the airport. That's hangars, keepers, insurance as well as liability. That was $17,100. That is up from last year. That's the first time it's gone up in the last 8 years. So, I mean, with costs rising, I'm happy that it's only gone up once in 8 years. But I do think that over the winter, we really should look at inventory at the airport and then maybe consider going out to bid for new insurance next year. It's been, I think, 3 years since we've done that. So next year might be a good time just to practice that, exercise it, make sure we're getting our best bang for the buck there. And then the other one you'll see is Hanson Engineering. That was $7,000. That was 2 different independent fee studies that was done. Is that in your engineer's report? Okay, that was for the 2 projects we've got going on right now. FAA requires that an outside contract or an outside engineer goes over all of the documents and makes sure that our engineer is giving us good information. We've got good pricing for the projects and that everything looks good. We will be reimbursed through the 2 grants.
Yep.
That would be power lines and the runway project. So that was $3,500 for each one of those studies, and then that is a part of those 2 grants then. So we pay it up front and then we'll get that money back. Outside of that, pretty standard month, unless you have any specific questions that I can answer.
What's the IDEM 270 fee against the fuel fund?
That is our annual, I have to tell you.
I figured it was an annual something,
Underground,
but.
the underground tank fees.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I remember those.
So that was 270, and then we had, for Ascent Aviation, we had 1 load of 100 low lead, 1 load of Jet A, and some aircraft oil. Totaling $35,766.17.
What did we pick up from stock and field?
That was a new chemical tank. and sprayer unit so that we can spray weeds on
Gotcha, okay.
roadways and taxiways.
Sure.
And then we also, I forgot the other big part of that was our 2 new employees, we needed to get safety jackets, winter coats, gloves, that type of, rain gear, that type of workwear. We get that from Stock and Field, so.
Okay. Monteith, I'm assuming new rubber on the
Yep.
trucks.
How much was it? Was it,
Uh,
I think that was
7.9.
one jet truck tire and 1 tire on my truck, I believe. The jet truck was right at $500. Those are pretty big tires. And then my tire blew a side, or one of the tires on my truck blew a sidewall just driving down the road. So
Mm.
that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any further questions?
I make a motion to accept the, what am I accepting? The expenditures as presented.
Including specifically the
And
aviation and the identity, right?
Yes, yes. I lost my sheet, I don't know what it's.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Okay, while we're signing that, let's go on to the engineer's report. Mary,
Alrighty.
you're here in person. Good to see
I am
you.
here in person. Glad to be back. First up, the runway project. I'm sure everyone is aware that we received the grant from the FAA for the runway project, and we have already started construction. I think we signed the grant and we started construction, and like 2 days later or something, we hit the ground running.
Real quick turnaround.
So yeah, we did have a little hiccup, I'll call it a hiccup, with the runway. So part of the original design that was done by the previous consultant was to remove portions of the aligned taxiways on the ends of each runway, and convert that to displaced threshold. And unfortunately, the FAA came back to us at the last possible moment and said that the paperwork was not in that needed to be in for the runway to go from an aligned taxiway on the ends to displaced threshold. The environmental document that had been submitted was stated that it was a runway rehabilitation, and that's all that it was. And I know it's splitting hairs at this point, and I agree completely, but it should have been written as a runway rehabilitation and a runway extension. And because one word was left off of that paperwork, they would not allow for that work to happen. We asked if we could get the paperwork to them right away. You know, a lot of the work that was happening for that was at the end of the construction, so, 55 days, we can get it to you next week. Is that allowed? And they said that they would not issue a grant without it. And so it was either receive a grant this year for the runway and get it paved and rehabbed, or not receive a grant. So we went ahead and received the grant for it. So there will need to be another project to do that work. But
And that's about 360 feet, as I understand it?
yes.
Am I measuring that right?
Mhm.
And also, is it your opinion that this will not in any way significantly affect usage out of the airport? Just
No.
We gotta get this, we gotta finish it with the rest of the project.
Correct.
But probably next year as opposed to this year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And, yeah, it'd be another project that we'll have to, a minor project that we'll have to add to the CIP. And, yeah, and we can get it taken care of. It really is, it's very minor. It's changing lights and changing pavement markings. But they wouldn't allow that, so, unfortunately, we'll have to go in and do, get that documentation done after the fact,
And it really doesn't affect our allowable or usable
no.
runway in the slightest,
No.
right? Okay.
The main thing that, and the reason behind this, and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we go and we do 927, the displaced thresholds would have helped the larger aircraft land on that runway. So we really need to, or take off, excuse me, thank you. So we really need to do that work before we do 927 so that some of our larger aircraft can still take off.
Okay.
Yeah.
When do you think we can possibly do this? Next year, midway, halfway?
So you're jumping ahead of me. We have a meeting with FA and DOT in November, and that's when we can discuss with them. You know, we're hoping to do it next year. Is I think talking to Nick is what he would like. Obviously, if the board, wants it done later, we can do that. But yeah, that's the discussion that we'll be having with them at the meeting in November.
Okay.
We'll touch on that one in just a second. Can we talk about that one last?
Sure. So moving on, construction has started, as I said. We're on day 19 of 55 calendar days. Pulverization is complete, and it looks very, very good. If anyone on the board or anyone would like to go and see the project, we have a full-time inspector out there, and he'd be happy to take you out and show you everything that they're doing. Right now, they are scheduled for paving on Thursday. Hopefully, the weather allows that. So yeah, knock on wood, that we can still meet the Thursday. If not, we can always push it to Friday, but we're hoping for Thursday right now. So. The only thing that I need from the board is Findon Brown, the contractor, has sent their pay request number 1, and we have reviewed that pay request and find that it is all correct and that the quantities are correct, and they are asking for payment of $115,000 or $115,020. So,
I move we approve that pay request.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve Fenton Brown's pay request number 1. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
any questions on the runway before we move on?
Anything? Okay,
All righty.
keep it going.
So for the obstruction mitigation, we have heard back from the FAA on the gross up tax, and unfortunately, they said that they do not have the information to support that they are exempt from that gross up tax. So they encourage us to talk to a CPA. I know that we are working with TAF Law to get an answer back on that. And Nick, I believe you were still waiting for a response from them.
Yes, Taft Law and I have been chatting back and forth over the last 3 or 4 weeks. The issue that we're running into with this CIAC gross up tax is there's no case law that has really been tried. It's a very, very new part of the tax code. It was just introduced in December of 2017, and there's no there has not been any challenges to this, like ours, and I shouldn't say challenges, that's the wrong word, but there's not been a situation like ours yet to really look into how this law was written and is this type of tax applicable for this project. Is my opinion, and I'm not an attorney, but the way I read the tax code, this is not a eligible project for that tax, because AEP is not improving their lines. We are requiring them to lower them. They gain no new customers, they gain no new infrastructure. It is the same after as it is before, just 100 feet lower. That's all that we're asking them to do. And so I don't think that this tax applies. This tax is only if they are improving their infrastructure or if they are gaining new clients, which they are not doing either of. So we just need a person who has the proper credentials to go through all of this and make sure that that is correct. Once we have that opinion, we'll go back and we will start the renegotiations with AEP. And we are still having bi-weekly meetings with them just to stay, hey, we're working on this. We know that they are still working diligently on their end. So hopefully we can hit the ground running with this project very early next spring.
Do you have any feel for what AEP says they will need in order to remove that? I mean, it's, you find a lawyer to give you an opinion, and is that gonna make them respond, or are they gonna say, well, we gotta have that case law, in which case we become the case law?
Yeah. And that's the question
Yeah,
that I can't answer.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna satisfy AEP. If
They
it's
were
that.
amenable to the FAA coming back and saying that they were exempt. So I don't know how amenable they would be to an attorney coming back and saying
And-
that,
In Chicago, ADO manager, Airport's District Office Manager Deb Martell did say that if we do find opinions through a private legal counsel or CPA and get that to FAA, their legal will review it and see if there is a way that they can agree with that or give us any kind of
and then maybe they
a
could.
document
Yeah.
along with it.
So,
But they weren't gonna do the legwork to
Yeah.
figure that out, that's the feeling I got.
okay, so as a practical matter, we've gotta come up with a legal opinion. With no offense to them, you're not gonna grab a CPA that's gonna be able to give any kind of opinion to understand this.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to be a legal opinion.
Yeah.
That goes to FAA, and then the FAA legal counsel would have to sign off on it. And if they would agree to that, then the belief is AEP will probably go along with it.
Correct. And we may have
Okay.
to go as far, once FAA has it, they may need to also have the IRS sign off on it as well. So we are in the middle of researching that right now. We just do not yet have that answer.
So this is a federal tax.
Correct.
Wouldn't it be smart just to contact the IRS commissioner and
Well,
get an opinion?
originally, we thought it was a Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission tax. Once it was clarified it was not, it is we're paying AEP this amount of money for the project. It is their AEP's opinion that if this tax is applied, they have to pay income tax on the money that we give them, because they have to put it in their books as income. That, they are taxed at the federal level of 21% and at the state level of 5%. We've already got the Indiana Department of Revenue that said they have decoupled from this rule, so that took the 5% right out. And it was their opinion that it didn't matter because they thought this project didn't qualify, but that's just the state, that's not the IRS. After depreciation and everything else, memory, 11 point, no, it was like 8.76%.
It was eight something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After depreciation on all of that, so it's still a $750,000 tax on this project, somewhere in there. And removing that obviously is a huge part of this project. So we are working on trying to get that legal opinion, and once we do have that, then hopefully we'll be able to clear this up, button up the contract, and maybe get things started next spring, so.
Any questions on the obstruction mitigation?
No?
On to the hangar door, or do you want to go down?
Let's do CIP, and then we'll just,
Okay.
we can move my hangar door piece up, and we can talk about all of it at the same time.
Okay. So as I had mentioned, the capital improvement plan, every February, we're asked to submit the CIP, as it's called, to NDOT. And it's your kind of 10-year planning document of what you want to have happen out at the airport with your federal dollars. And this year, they are having virtual meetings with everyone in November. Right now, we are scheduled for November 12th at 11:30 a.m. Nick and I will be attending that. I'd like one or two board members to possibly attend that as well, if possible. November 12th at 11:30. And we will just be talking about future projects out of the airport, possibly the 1836 portion that didn't get included this year with the project. Obviously, 927, possibly Taxway Alpha rehab, and just all of the future projects that we're looking at into.
Do we maybe want to have a meeting prior to that internally?
Yes, and that was what I was going to say, is whomever is available on the 12th, we would like to
I
have.
can be there.
You could be there, Jay?
I'm available too.
Okay. So I will try and set up a meeting before that, maybe 2 weeks before, so at the end of this month probably, so that we can just kind of all be on the same page with where we want to see the CIP going. Obviously, FAA and NDOT have their opinions, and we can have an open discussion with them on the 12th. So I'll send out an email about that other meeting here in the next day or two. Alrighty, and then on to the hangar door. So yesterday we opened bids for the hangar door replacement, and we received one bid from Robinson Construction in the amount of $644,262. We did have other plan holders that included Industrial Door of Northern Indiana, Power Lift Hydraulic Doors by Speed Wrench, and Raynor Door Authority. We have not called those other plan holders to get an understanding as to why they didn't bid. We felt that Robinson's bid and their forms was all in order. I can make those calls if the board would like. Robinson did include a voluntary bid alternate for a hydraulic door, which was $4,500 less than the what I would call the base bid. I would not recommend the hydraulic door, mainly because it would take up half of the ramp space, and a plane could not park on the ramp with that hydraulic door, which, according to Nick, that's a no-go for the tenant.
Yep.
So I guess the question for the board would be if we want to approve this, accept this bid or not.
Is the plan holders, you're talking about folks that we kind of traditionally or know they're in the business and we contact them. Was the existence of this project known publicly other than that?
We advertised in the Times Union on Saturday, September 26th, as well as Saturday, October 3rd. And then I personally emailed, in no particular order, Industrial Door of Northern Indiana, Robinson Construction, Raynor Door Authority of Fort Wayne, and Power Lift Door Companies, all four of which have done work, not necessarily for the airport, but at the airport on hangar doors. They are known qualified contractors, and they all received the email with the newspaper advertisement asking them to consider it. And I believe all but Raynor Door were plan holders, or did Raynor also?
Raynor was a plan holder.
Okay, so.
Okay, so we
We did
reached
our
out,
best,
we
yeah.
did our due diligence in terms of advertising, and we also reached out to everybody that we knew that had any expertise within any general area.
Correct.
And wasn't it Power Lift, Nick, that
was the speed
came
wrench,
out
yeah.
and looked at the hangar several times?
Yep.
Okay.
And we're comfortable with this price?
Yeah, it's right within what we all thought it was
Yeah,
going
so,
to
CHA's rough estimate was, low 500,000, high 750,000. So it's right in the middle of what our estimate to Nick, before this,
Mhm.
was, so.
No, I don't have a problem with it. Separate from Rob's Constructions, I had been being on the board, they've have always had a good reputation and done quality work for many years, so.
My recommendation, if the board so chooses, we approve this pending, we figure out how to finance everything. And that will be me working with city officials via mayor's office and the planning department to just find where all of this money is going to be coming from. Make sure that we've got those funds in place locally, but outside of that, I think everything else looks really good.
I move that we award the bid for the Zimmer door for the price of $644,262 to Robertson Construction,
Pending
With-
funding.
depending on the funding available for it.
I second it.
Okay, we moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. One abstention.
Dan abstains. Just so you guys have a better understanding, the clear height that they're asking for of 28 foot and the clear width of 110 foot, the existing steel frame at the narrowest point is 109 feet wide and 27.5 feet tall. So there's no way to fit a door system under that, of any kind. The power lift door won't fit within it, at those dimensions. The higher power door won't fit within it because it opens back partially about 1/4 of its height back into the building. The bifold door, by necessity, the hinge point has to be roughly 36 feet high, which is at the top of the roof. So all the options require moving the door out in front of the building. There's no other way to do it on that size on that building.
Can't take a hammer and bang out an extra foot. Okay.
I was talking with Nick yesterday, the only feasible alternative to get the price down is if a smaller door would work. And height-wise, we don't have much leeway. We do have a little leeway width-wise, but not a lot. So that's a discussion Nick may want to have, I don't know. But it just doesn't leave a lot of options. There's a lot of good door choices. And what Zimmer had really asked for originally 2 years ago was a bottom rolling door like you see on military hangars. They didn't like the cost of that either.
Okay. Well, we'll get it paid for, Nick.
All right. Outside of that I think concludes the engineer's report, unless
Yes.
there are any other questions.
I wanted to go back to the power line project, A&P. We have A&P's price, and you've talked to them about this tax situation, and the Indiana portion, they have agreed to remove, right?
Correct.
So, we have a price from them. Why can't we move forward with this, since we have the grant, with the understanding that if basically we win on the tax issue, write a change order and deduct it, so we can get going? Because I'm afraid if this keeps going another year, the price is gonna go up more than we gain in the taxes. We're not gonna gain any ground here.
Yeah.
we've put this off year after year, the FAA's put it off, and every year the cost goes up another 10% or so, and we've watched it go up by almost 10 times in 30 years.
I will
And we still
ask-
don't get anywhere.
Yeah, I will ask Nathan, who couldn't make the call today. I assume that he probably approached the FAA with that option when we heard about this, and I would imagine the FAA said, no, we're not gonna award this until this issue is resolved, but,
See, if they've paid it in the past, then that shouldn't be an issue. And if it ends up being agreed that they don't, everybody wins.
Yeah.
I don't see any loss here, other than that we run the risk of the price going up another $800,000 in spite of the tax.
right, right. Yeah, we will have our meeting with the
On
FAA
Thursday.
on Thursday, and that's a question that we can ask, but,
But
yeah.
under the current situation, we'd have to figure a way for that other $800,000 to appear.
Mhm.
Between FAA, state, and us.
Yeah.
Our portion would be 5% of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
But that's still locally, check my math, 45, 50,000, give or take.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
See, the problem is, if another year goes by, AAP's not gonna hold that price for a year.
You're right,
They'll raise the price again,
yeah,
and then we gotta go back and fight with FAA and NDOT and everybody else to raise more money,
mhm,
which will delay it longer, and the price will go up again.
yeah.
Where, this is a catch-22, it
Yeah.
just keeps going and escalating.
Mhm.
We've gotta put an end to it and get moving.
Yeah, I agree.
we will ask that on Thursday, and I will let you know as soon as I find out.
Okay. Anything else, Mary?
I am good. Unless you guys have any more questions for me?
No?
Yeah, thank you. Nick?
Pretty quiet on the fuel and income statement, as you guys will see. Been still pretty slow. So I mean, I don't need to go into too many details on that unless you guys have specific questions on any of our fuel usage reports or income statements. Excuse me.
It's kinda surprising that GA is up that much, isn't it?
A lot of people out flying right now. There's very few ways you can social distance better than sitting in a metal box by yourself at 4,000 feet, so. There's a lot of guys and gals that are just out enjoying flying around.
It's a pleasant way to look at the world.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a lot quieter.
Any other questions, comments?
No.
You got some new business for us yet?
Yep, the only thing I want to add to the fuel usage report, I really think that it is time for the board to consider looking at a facility fee of some kind. I've talked about it with you guys in the past. A perfect example, we had a corporate jet flying in a Falcon 900X, flew in for the weekend for a hunting trip, and that aircraft burns probably at cruise, I would imagine 160 gallons an hour, give or take. And they did buy courtesy gas. You had asked us to ask our, customers to do that, and they bought 100 gallons, which allows them to run. They ran the APU for about an hour, the auxiliary power unit. That thing burns about 50 gallons an hour, just keeping the temperature of the aircraft at 72 before they take off. So they bought enough gas to run the APU for 2 hours, and that was it. So I really think that we need to look really, really hard at implementing a facility fee of some kind. They were on the ramp for 5 days. We had to work around them. They got coffee, they got ice, things like that. And they were able to fly into Warsaw to do their hunting trip because the airport was there, and 100 gallons of gas is not gonna keep the lights on for very long out of the airport. So I think that that's something that we really need to look at over the winter and maybe look at making some of those changes. I do not support a general aviation facility fee, just somebody flying in a Cessna 172. I don't think we need to charge them $20 to land if they're not buying gas. But the corporate jets that we are blessed with at the airport, it is becoming more and more, the flight departments are looking at the bottom line. If you don't have a facility fee and you don't have a minimum gallon purchase amount to waive that facility fee, they will not buy gas. They will tanker it in from their last stop that does have a facility fee, and then they'll burn that gas on the way out to the next stop that has a facility fee, and we don't get anything then. I have talked to a few other airports. They had boards that were hesitant to put it in place, and they not only saw their fuel sales go up by anywhere from 5 to 15% the first year, they also made anywhere, I've heard from $60,000 to $150,000 in their first year just in facility fees of airplanes who were like, well, we can't get gas, here's $200, thanks for letting us park here for the day.
If there have been airports that have implemented it relatively recently where you can show it to us.
Okay, I'll put that together.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll see it, I'll get educated and go along with it. Let's just see a couple places where it's worked.
Can do. New business to bring before the board tonight. Just one thing, Hangar 24. Marshall Huckaman is asking the board to waive their right of first refusal to sell Hangar 24 for $60,000 to Drew Newcomer. And I support this 100%. Drew is a new pilot at the airport. He's also the captain for air cargo carriers, the cargo aircraft that takes off every night. And so we're excited that we might have somebody stick around for quite a while. He's a young pilot, and so it'll be fun to have a new aircraft on the field since Marshall is getting out of aviation right now. So I support this 100%, and if the board has any questions, I'd love to answer those.
Nope.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve, or to waive your right of first refusal.
I move we waive our first right of refusal.
Second.
Moved and seconded to waive right of first refusal. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, saying nay. Motion carried.
And the next one is the land lease. So it is the same lease that Marshall had. Linda, it's $240 a year for that hangar, and that would be for 20 years, and then he would have one option to renew at 10 years.
I hear a motion to approve the lease with Mr. Newcomer.
And why is he getting the same lease?
It is the new lease, but the prices are still the same right now.
Okay.
We've not, board hasn't let me raise those prices quite yet.
No, well, you bring your recommendations in now with the stuff on the facility fee. We'll be glad to take a look at
We'll
it.
do that one first, and then we'll look at the land rent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this young man aware that we're discussing raising rates?
Yes.
And any comments?
His lease is, the way that our lease is currently written, he will be grandfathered in with this. Anyone who has I will not break lease with our current customers. Another airport, and I'm not gonna say who, not very far away, went through that a few years back, and it was not a pleasant situation for anybody. I do not support that. If we do a rate change for our land lease, that will be a process that could take upwards of 20 or 30 years to get everybody to that new rate, because as leases are up for renewal, or as hangars are sold, then the new rates would come in place at that time. But I would not retroactively go back and change somebody's rate on their lease. We do have a provision in our current lease that allows us to raise the rates based off of the annual consumer price index. And we have done that a few of our leases are written that way, and we have built that into the new lease, this lease, so that will rise with the CPI every year. But outside of that, we don't have a metric where we can just go in and flip a switch and change everybody's lease rates. At least that I'm aware of. There's a legal precedent for that. I'm not aware of that.
I mean, you probably could, if you got the ability to terminate the lease, you have the ability to do that. Now, I'm not automatically averse to ever doing it for somebody and saying 20 years, okay, you're fixed with it. I would not be averse saying, okay, here's what we're gonna plan to do now, and 2 years from now, here's what you can expect. And so you'll join in with the group 2 years, or 2 years, a magic number, just that's far enough in the future to say they can't really be surprised, and I don't know that anybody would think to themselves, you know, I signed this lease this year for whatever you're leasing, 18 years from now, it's gonna be exactly the same. I mean, that's not a realistic expectation for anybody, I don't think.
Right.
No.
So I don't mind looking at the recommendations, I might implement it a little bit differently than you're thinking about doing it, but that's just my reaction. But let's just take a look at the numbers first.
It's a discussion for another board meeting.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, what's the status on that one hangar that was significantly behind on his payments?
On the payments, yeah.
He paid, right? Ousley?
I don't know who it is, I'm just,
It was one, so we have two instances, and we've been held up because of the COVID, help me out on the legal terms here, eviction rules. That threw a monkey wrench into things. We have one lot lease that does not have a hangar on it, that has the frame of 2 doors. We can't get a hold of them. We've sent certified letters, they've come back returned, we've tried calling them. So once the evictions with COVID and everything else are done, we're gonna let the attorneys do their paperwork to cancel that lease. And then we will do our best to notify the owner of those 2 frames that after so many days it's abandoned property. And
Well,
then
the state restrictions are done now.
They are.
Yeah, because the governor did not renew those with the last,
Is that the end of July sunset law?
yeah, it was set to roll over in September,
Yeah.
and he did not renew that. So my understanding, because we're doing sheriff sales again.
Yeah.
So, as far as I know, they're doing evictions again too.
Okay. The other individual that we've discussed in the past brought in, after the last board meeting, brought in money and brought himself back up to date.
okay.
And we don't have anybody waiting for that hangar right now. So as long as they keep paying, it's better than not getting any money at all.
Right.
So late or nobody there, I'd rather take late at this point. So if we have anybody who comes to us and says, we need a hangar, and we can look at that really hard, really quick if he falls behind again. But that's just where we are with that right now.
Okay.
All right?
Anything further for Nick?
Okay.
Anything further for the good of the order?
Next meeting
Okay.
is
November 10th. Okay, hearing no further business, meeting adjourned. Next meeting is November 10th, 2020 at 5:15.
Thank you, everyone.